we have a yet another really inspiring and interesting individual who's going to be speaking with us today, Cameron Lutges, who first came in contact with one of our Autovault colleagues, Aaron Holm, of course, one of the heroes of Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, I must say, with all the things that we've done with him and the amount of times that we've seen him at a Angel City Games event, right, out in LA. So that was the first time back when you were 16 years old?
Probably F16,
Yeah.
15, 16.
Cameron works for Hanger in PRT department and is currently working on his bachelor's degree, which he'll be having at the end of this year. So just recently moved out to Maine not too long ago, where he is also heavily involved in Cat No Limits, which we will talk about a little bit as well. And it's just a really, really inspiring story. He's also, fun fact, an all-crane patient for his bilateral X3s that he's had now as a second time. So 2018 and 2022, all crane supported Cameron in acquiring his devices, which have had a huge impact on his life, and he's going to talk about that a little bit. We're just connecting on that.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you guys for having me here today. And also, it's an honor to be going ahead and ending Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, because it is such an important month. And I think you guys hit it on the tooth and nail. And it's just so much appreciation, especially coming from me in the community, that it means so much to be seen and heard. So I really appreciate that. My name's Cameron Lutges. I'm 23. I'm currently based in Maine. I'm from California, though, so I decided to go to the whole other opposite end of the United States. There is a reason. But I was born with the tibia humilia, which is a condition of either the absence of the complete tibia or partial of the tibia. As you can see in the picture at the top here, I had upside down clubbed feet with 3 and 2 toes. The doctors told my mom that there was something wrong with me, and she was super stressed. And then when she found out that it was just my legs, she told me that her heart just was happy, because she knew that I was going to be okay, and that there was the technology and resources that I needed to live my life happily. And I can say that is very true standing here today. I got my first pair of prosthetics at 12 months old with Shriners. I stayed there for about till I was 7 years old. And then I moved to somewhere where they were able to provide me with running prosthesis, because at Shriners it was kind of like you had to be 13 in order to get them. And I was a moving kid. I wanted to get going. So I didn't want anything holding me back. And then from there, I kind of want to talk about the community that's wrapped around my life, because in my opinion, I think the community is the most important aspect of me growing up and being who I am today. I started out with going to an organization called Challenge Athletes Foundation. Now, I never met a single amputee until I was 7, and my parents still tell me to this day that I was convinced my legs were going to grow back. Sad to say, well, not sad to say, because these are pretty cool. They have not grown back. But being able to meet that and just visually see that I get to see every day when I mentor the younger kids is just that light moment where those eyes just glow. Because I remember the first time seeing an amputee, like that loneliness just evaporated. It was just, you saw it lift off my shoulders and you just knew, and I just ran in there like I knew everybody, and it was a reunion. And organizations like that just help the confidence and growth within these kids that is just so important, and set them up for success. Because before I went to anything related to any amputation events or limb difference events, we didn't know anything. We found out about grants. We found out about opportunities for me to go travel. We found all these things, and it's a lonely world when you're not involved in anything, because you think you're the only one. And then for prosthetic components, I think it's really important, because now I do my own research. I'll go on Autobox website or another website for prosthetic components, and I go to my process and I go, I want this. This is cool. Like, for example, I have the Autobox ankles that articulate left and right. Before, I had a vertical shock, but I wasn't jumping or doing any physical activity to where I needed the absorption. And now when I'm walking on rough terrain, my feet adjust to me so I can go left and right. Especially stairs, I didn't realize it was going to help so much, because when you plant your foot sideways, you need it to go sideways to help you. And just not knowing that those things exist and just going to the clinic and then walking out with whatever was provided with you. It's good to know that you have options, because really it's at the beginning, you just think it's like you walk in, they do their job, you go out, but it's a relationship. It's a bond that you connect with these patients. And I think that's really special, because I know when I was switching prosthetists, it was very scary to me, because I was like, will I get the same care? But I can say that these have been the best sockets and prosthesis that I have worn. And I'm 23, so to say that these are the best out of 23 years is pretty amazing. And I'm just so blessed. And then, like we also talked about, I was able to get these in support to be able to walk on the X3s. Before that, I had total knees, and the way I describe it, it's a lemon to a Lamborghini. I mean, I would just be leaning against walls, and those knees would collapse on me, and I'd scrape my back down the wall, or, just a lot of times I just wasn't confident in my walking ability, nor was I confident to wear my prosthetics. So I stuck to the running blades. I stuck to those stubbies, or in that case, just because I didn't want to fall. No one else falls when they walk, so I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the best care. And then when I got these, the confidence and determination that I had to learn and figure them out, because I will say these were the longest it took me to learn, and that was frustrating because I normally pick them up in like 3 days. These ones I think took like a month. It was a very big learning curve to be able to trust a medical device to make sure that you are walking how you're supposed to and also catching you. But just throughout that community, I mean, that's where that impact comes in. And I actually wanted to show one video at the end here, just one example of community and how important it is, just for you guys to visually see. Kind of also what I do in the background as a mentor and so forth.
You see that crazy guy on the zip line? Yeah, that's me. I'm Cameron Lutges, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about Camp No Limits. We always start our mornings off with some fun Energizer dances, and then we continue into the day with our OT and PT breakout groups, where we get to learn life skills with and without our prosthetics. There are so many different activities always offered at different camp locations, like archery, zip lining, field hockey, and even cheerleading. You name it, we've got it. Not only is camp just a fun time overall, but by the end of it, we're all just one big family, ready to help each other out as much as we can. And camp would not be possible without our supporters. I want to give a shout out to Hanger Clinic and all the support that they give camp.
Awesome. And I do want to share that also support camp heavily, and it's very appreciated because I got a chance to actually speak to some of you guys at Autobach Live and share a little bit of what I did with Camp No Limits. And from there, Autobach went ahead and helped and support Camp No Limits, which I am so appreciative of. But for that example of community, these kids, they come into camp and they're always so shy and secluded. And then that's where that aha moment happens. For them to be able to see the resources like wheelchair basketball or adaptive cheerleading, which I didn't even know was a thing either until they came to camp. I just think it opens up those doors to allow these kids to be their true selves and to be where they want to be. Because another great example is through adaptive sports. Throughout my life, sports have been a huge impact to stay active and be able to make myself and show others that I am capable of anything anyone is capable of. So for me, I've done baseball, taekwondo, a track and field. I mean, you name it, I've probably dabbled in it. My parents told me stick to one sport because you're expensive. So one thing I did that I just absolutely loved, and I think it was the freedom away from the prosthetic device, just due to wearing that, was swimming. So I swam competitively for 4 years in high school, which I absolutely loved. It was almost weightless in the water. I didn't have this pressure or anything. But another thing is my mentor, Rudy Garcia Tolson, was a huge Paralympic swimmer, and I absolutely wanted to be him as a kid. He was my light to guide me through all those dark times and show me how to get to where he is today. And swimming just took like it was nothing. And I absolutely loved it. But further down the road, I started discovering more like mono skiing, which is my huge passion right now. To be able to get out there, and also see the faces while you're going down the slopes because they're confused, but they're like, that's also really cool. And then also, I never really thought of the aspect. I get to share my knowledge of this device to other people for them to understand. So it's almost like I get to have fun while also being a huge advocate to this community and being able to describe, like, not everyone does things the same way. And this is another way, because you can see in this picture, Hat there, he is missing one leg, but he decides to use his prosthesis on a device. And then this was actually at our Camp No Limits. We call it Camp Snow Limits for a fungal twist. Nice. But Main Adaptive helped us out a lot here to go ahead and get these campers to know that this is a potential. This is a capability that you have, and let them know the resources. And also in these pictures, the clinical staff has been huge for me. Without their support, I wouldn't even be able to use this. The bucket that I'm using in these images are actually a bucket that was casted for me, which is actually a quite interesting process. I think I was all the way up to my shoulders here in plaster. And it was fun, and it absolutely allows me to manipulate the ski and the apparatus exactly how I like. And without that, I just wouldn't be able to make the impact in my life or help others as much as I do. And it's just amazing for the support and also the tenacity to go ahead and do it for people who don't do these. Like my clinician, he's like, I've made 2, we can try it, So it's like, to take that risk to put the smile on my face or somebody else's faces that you guys and other people do. That really is what makes us come out of that clinical setting to live our best lives. Because without any of these devices, I wouldn't know who I would be or also what I would be capable of. And then, like I mentioned, a huge impact to me from a young age was mentoring. And I feel like being able to come back to mentoring and just get that full circle moment is honestly really rewarding and very special to me. And not just because I need that for myself, but so many people gave me so much knowledge and growth and understanding to where I personally don't think I would be who I am today without that knowledge. Like I mentioned, my mentor was Rudy, and then also Roderick, who both I met at Challenge Athletes Foundation, and just it showed me what is possible in this world. Because in society, which is getting better, I will say, when I was a kid, you kind of were looked down upon or pitied because it wasn't an understanding. So in my head, luckily, I still tried to push, and my parents were a very huge advocate of never letting somebody tell you what you can and can't do. Because unless you try it or figure out your own way to do it, you can't say you can't do it. And at camp, I feel like this is huge because we have a lot of families, and which is my favorite time at camp, honestly, is the reflection circle, which is the very end. And then I'm just a big old crybaby because let me tell you the story. Last camp, we just had a camp in Austin, and at the end of it, there was this little girl, and it will stick with me, who just started bawling her eyes out because she never had been around other amputees. And she's, I think, 7 or 8. And she just became best friends with one of the little girls there. And just for her to be able to understand how important that moment was for her and to feel that community and warmth, is why we do it. It's just, to feel alone is awful, but to be able to feel like you could take on the world, which I believe is what happens after, events like camp, or, there's an Amputee Coalition camp, and, the clinics you guys do and everything. I just feel like the growth and warmth that they leave has them wanting to tackle the world because they see so many different cases. And it's just incredible. And in regards to camp specifically, another thing I talked about was talking about componentry. We have a session in PT where we just get to talk about our prosthetic components. And I've actually learned the most in that because you learn about different systems. Like I learned about BOA systems at camp. I learned about different prosthetic ankles. Like I tried the runway ankle. That one didn't work out too well, but I tried it. And I found these from camp as well, and also going online. Like, it just allows you to find the devices that you need, as well as these parents to be like, oh, why haven't I ever asked about that for my kid? And also another great thing that I was very proud of, and it made me very emotional as well at camp, is I met another younger camper named Xavier at camp this last weekend. and all he wanted to do was run. And I originally brought my running blades to be able to run with him. Now he had hybrids, so it wasn't as good. And one thing that I always do at camp, because like I talked about that light, I let him try on my running blades. And number one, he made it look easy. I was kind of mad. I was like, oh, like he's been bouncing and running, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, it's okay. And I looked at his mom and I was like, they're yours, because it's about that community, and because of how hard those things are to get. Like his mom was telling me, he puts the phone on the floor to record himself jump up to see how high he got. And he tried once on the blades, and the light and smile and laughter, watching him run away and run back, like that's an impact that I get to make. But then also your guys' work makes that impact immensely. You might not see it, but just know for my life, directly telling you guys, I never walked as well as I have ever since I've got these prosthetic devices. And to be able to say that is so important, because without your guys' support and your guys' work, I don't know where I would be today with being able to, I go hiking in these, to going downstairs, to going upstairs. I mean, I've been thinking about all the practical things that have changed so much, to where it just, the list, I don't even know the whole list. But that's what is instilled with them at camp. It's to be able to see that they are that person that they think they are. And a lot of stories are really cool, because I actually started as a camper at this camp. So that's something that's super unique about this camp. When I was 10 or 12, and I came back in 2017 and got to just keep growing from there and keep mentoring. And this is actually why I moved to Maine, was for camp. I had such a passion for this, advocating for others and speaking, and helping them just realize that they could be goofy, they could be who they really are. Because like I mentioned, a lot of people come in secluded and scared. And another thing with camp is it's a family camp, because I always describe to people, a lot of people think the journey is a self-discovering journey and you're alone and you got to figure it out. And honestly, I didn't learn that until I was probably 18. That's not a journey that you go alone. It's a journey that affects everybody in your circle. I don't even think it just stops at family. I think it's everybody in your circle, because I've had friends who support me. I have my parents, I have my aunts and uncles, and the list goes on. And so for families to be able to come here, and also for me to be able to give them and other mentors the light to see what their kid is capable of, because it is a scary process to know that your kid might not be able to, because unfortunately that is what the world has kind of put light to, disabilities. But to see older kids being able to show these parents what their kids are capable of, like simply going to college. I've had a lot of parents tell me, can my kid ever independently go to college? And I'm like, I went to college. And like, just to say, is there a sport that my kid can do? And just to be able to show them that anything is possible, no matter what. I feel like it's really the forefront of getting that knowledge of growth, to be able to be who they want to be, because a lot of kids, I feel like, are pushed down to not feel like they can be that potential. And then for me, kind of my goals in my life and what I would like to see is, I really want to grow camp, which is why I personally go ahead and dedicate so much of my time to Camp No Limits. I also want to be more active. Like I think going to the Capitol was an amazing example of being active and being proactive with presenting for limb loss and limb difference rights, and being able to also do like so everybody can move. I think that's an incredible movement as well. To where I also just filled out a form for Amputee Coalition of America, because right now they might lose some funding. Certain things like that is how I feel like I can make an impact in the community instead of sitting back and not doing anything. As well as I've started to public speak a little bit more, to be able to share my story, let people know, how much of an impact either organizations have helped me, or grant processes, stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of people just think you get prosthetics and it's that easy, and you walk into the clinic, you walk out with what you need, but really it's this process to get X3s until you guys helped me out was 2 years. I tried to fight insurance for 2 years to get them, but it's that darn code that they don't like, and they'll tell you no because they don't know. And just to be able to bring that to light and share with people that it is not an easy process. And I think that is moving along in the right direction. I feel like people are finally understanding that it's not night and day with getting prosthetics. It's not you walk in, you walk out. And then another thing is also promoting inclusion, which comes to, doing that more at camp. I would love to do that out in the community, but I feel like it's a lot easier to show that in a safe space for these kids to be able to try new things, because I know it is scary to go ahead and do that when there's other people watching who are capable of doing that. It's really important to go ahead and, half the time the kids impress me with half the stuff they do. I'm like, I would never do that. But it's just to be able to show them that if you think you want to do it, you could do it. It's just, how do we get you there, and sharing those resources, as well, as, I kind of touched it, but the public speaking, writing, and leadership opportunities, just being able to, be that person that I had so much growing up. I can't instill that enough. I feel like, to be able to be that advocate, or at least just that voice for people, is very crucial. Because without that voice, I don't think my parents nor I would have the confidence that I do today. Because it was a very daunting time for my parents, my family. But one thing that, really resonated with me this weekend is I got to share, with my aunt and uncle, what I do at Camp No Limits. And a lot of my family haven't seen that side of me, which is super cool to be able to share. And they shared with the parents, that they never saw me differently. I had my cousins and I always was over there, and they were like, that was just Cameron. They're like, that was just a kid crawling on the floor, causing mayhem and destruction. And I feel like if everybody could just have that mindset that is just that person, the world would be such a better place, and just be able to truly be ourselves where we want to be, and not necessarily feel the pressure of having to perform, because it's almost like even for me, I feel like I have to prove myself in order for people to think I can do something. One thing that I always try to tell the kiddos too, is I mention to them, a lot of people, they come up to me and or the kids give examples of, they pray over them because they want their, to grow their limb back or something in that regard. And these kids express to me the frustration of, it's not going to happen, and they know that, and it's awkward. But I try to explain to them that we are, as this generation comes up to be raised, we are redefining the word of disability, or reinventing. Maybe it's not going to be called disability at one point. And just to educate and being able to instill those important decisions and choices that we can share is probably the most important thing we can do right now. Because without that, and without educating the next generation, I don't think, there will just be no change. And so I try to always instill that into the next generation, because a lot of times they get frustrated with staring, or they get frustrated with answering questions. And I tell them, you'll have your bad days, you'll have your good days. Everyone does. And sometimes you might not want to talk. But this past camp was really good, because the kiddos really impressed me with their responses on talking about that they think mentorship also goes outside of the camp, to where you share your knowledge with these individuals who might ask, or sharing with large crowds. And I think that this next generation is absolutely going to make waves in the limb loss, limb difference community. And honestly, I just want to be able to share and help in that, and which is kind of why I'm here today. But mainly, I just want to say that's kind of all I had to say. But I appreciate you guys letting me speak to y'all. And if there's any questions, I am completely open to answer some questions.
Here, great job.
What's your opinion on the quality of information out there for the community in terms of self-education about prosthetic technology? Do you think that it needs to elevate, it's insufficient, or is it too technical?
Personally, I think it needs to be elevated. I feel like, I never knew anything about it until I went to these events, and I found these which is funny, because I've had multiple people ask me that question, because it's very true. It's like, how do you get to where you want to be, and where do you find these resources, or how do you find these resources? And a lot of times for me, it's just been those events I go to. And that's the tricky part, like how you hit those people. And I feel like social media is a huge thing to be able to go ahead and present, but it's like, how do you get to the right audience with social media? But I personally think that it is not out there enough to where families are like, oh, I heard about that. Because at camp, I always tell people about Challenge Athletes Foundation. There's like Jordan Thomas Foundation, all these grants that you can get. And families are like, oh, I never knew about that. But maybe in the clinical, I feel like in the clinical space, it is shared. But unless needing said item, it is shared. So I don't know if somehow to instill within the clinical setting of the possibilities to have these, or, at least have it in your back pocket for a later date, could potentially bring that education, because obviously the targeted audience really is somebody in the limb loss and difference community. Because I don't feel like I come across it all that much on the internet or any social medias. I mean, I do, because I follow you, like all these advocates and prosthetic companies and everything. But to somebody who's so new to this, I think it's just such an information overload that sometimes they don't even look either.
So you said it took 2 years fighting insurance for your first step.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
What happened in that time? Because a lot of people would give up. Did someone step in? Did you learn something, or did you go doing it?
So my prosthetist was the one he's like, I know it's frustrating. I know this is like, I know you want these and I know it would benefit you. One thing that we did too was we tried to, at one point I did like a newspaper article about it and stuff like that to try and kind of get advocacy for it. But he kind of really instilled in me, he's like, just because you're not getting these, don't give up. He's like, worst case scenario, which is still not a bad option, is sea legs, which those ones were much more easier to get than the X3s from what he explained to me insurance wise. But he just thought like the X3s were really what I needed in my activity level and everything like that. But he really tried to instill in me, he was like, this sucks, it's frustrating, but we need to go through with this, because if you stop, then basically what you were saying, other people will stop. And it won't be able to get these insurance companies to hopefully realize that this is a need. It's not we want to charge you however much we can charge you. It was more came from the clinical staff to go ahead. And also Aaron, I talked with Aaron a lot about that, and just kind of, is X3s right for me? I was like, is that what I needed, or do I need a sea leg and stuff like that?
So 2 questions. The first one is, how do we develop the smile that you have here in this? You should be on like, the Sensodyne and, the little B. I mean, this is unbelievable. So, and Denise really wants to know, how does she smile like that? But, wow. The second question.
Just staring at you, Scott. That's all I gotta do.
The second question is, there's a couple new inquiries in the room of our team members. And you made mention of a couple words that they probably aren't recognizing. The word stubbies. If you could maybe explain that. And then as a bilateral transfemoral amputee, maybe the boot camps that you went to, or any kind of specialty there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the smile, it's not even, I don't even feel like it's the joy that the kids bring me. It's the joy that I just get to be my true self at camp, because even for myself, I don't feel like I could truly be my true self outside of my community. And that's not anything that anybody else is putting on me. I think it's personally myself, just because I want to be seen as capable and all these things. And there, I just know everyone knows the capabilities that we have. But one thing that I remember was before I was 17, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. It was one of those, getting out of high school, I was like, what in the world is my next step? And ironically, I got invited back to camp, and they kind of just threw me into the mentor role, if I'm being honest. They were just kind of like, I knew a camper for years, which actually, and which slide is it? That slide. So that's my buddy, Joshua, who I knew for many years, and I met him at Challenge Athletes Foundation as well, and kind of just took him by the hand and decided to hang out with him all camp. And then they talked to me about what they had, which was called the Inspire program, and I took massive interest into it. And honestly, just the community that I have at this camp, puts that smile on my face. It's really the people who I know who are behind me. It's not so much. I wish I could claim that all being me right there, but it's really to know that I have people who, if I have my bad days, they're right there to pick me back up, and that smile is supported by them. But for stubbies, I refer to those as you might see bilaterals, who are about shorter to the ground. They're almost, the ones that I use are almost like puck-like. And there's multiple reasons why those are beneficial. A, I can be lazy in them and I don't really have to try that hard. B, for the good reason, it allows for bilaterals to work on their core strength. So for somebody, since for me, I grew up already short, and as a child, I grew up in mine. I didn't necessarily have to go through that process. But say somebody traumatically loses their legs, and now their center of back, you throw them all the way as tall as I am. Their center of gravity is here. They might lean back. They might stick their butt out like this. Those stubbies allow them to find where their new center of gravity is. It allows them to necessarily walk how they're supposed to, keep the posture they're supposed to. My posture could probably be better too. But it's really at those, what you mentioned as the camps that I've done for Baka boot camp and such, that's where I got to learn to walk on knees. But a lot of people go back and start on stubbies. And it's very interesting to see because some people are thrown at my height. I actually had a camper who, her name was Rory, and she was thrown on knees, and her knee would collapse, and she'd hit the back of her head all the time, and she just had head trauma from that. And I asked them, I said, do you guys ever get stubbies? And they're like, what stubbies? And I was like, well, let me tell you. And I ended up, again, giving her my pair of stubbies because I just felt like it was so important for her to learn where to walk. And same situation, her being able to have the confidence to know she doesn't have to use arm crutches, and being able to run and, you know, chase her brother or whatever. She was crazy, but she found a way to do it. That's kind of where the stubbies, it's almost like a starting point. It's where a lot of people start their journey on, just to be able to keep that body anatomy and find your center of gravity, to be able to make sure that your body stays in the best physical health it can, and you're not, you know, arching your back or arching forward or sticking your butt out and moving your placement of your pelvis. So that's really the impact. It's for how small of a thing it is, it has the greatest impact on so many bilaterals. And a lot of times I try to instill that in people that I might see who are a little taller and might not have the balance they need.
All right, so I kind of have two questions too. One, you used a word way early on that I hear all the time with people who have moved from a mechanical knee to an MTK is trust.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't trust their prosthesis before and now they do. So I'd like if you can articulate kind of what makes that difference there. And my other question is just about your adapt feet, like when did you get those and how big of an impact was that made for you?
So for the trusting of the knees, really it's trial and error. It's failing, it's falling. It's just, that's the scariest part, is you have to literally fail in order to know where that breaking point is on the knee. And I mean, I wasn't just gradually thrown into it. Somebody just took me into it, and they gave me a ramp at this incline, and they're like, all right, let's do it. And there was a railing, and we did it. And it's just really I feel like it's a determination also. It really is daunting. I remember when I went off my first curb, I was holding a pillar, and I was doing this. And I was like, I'm not trusting that. That's going to break, go back. Because the difference between these is these don't really lock. Like, these are always, see anything like that? They're always loose. And that was something that I had to really get used to, because I was used to feeling that click, and then when it's loose and click. And for these, I was like it was like I was on a balance board. And that was probably the scariest part in the beginning. And then from there, it was trusting, the device is going to go down. And it's taken a long time, but I think it's just that trust is the word, but also failing. I think failing is always seen as a negative connotation, but for us, at least in my opinion, in the limb loss, limb difference community, it's the most important word, because you're not going to grow without failure. And then as for the second question, I actually only got these probably about 4 months ago. And they have helped me, I think, more than I realized, because I'm not always looking down on how much is articulating. But the stairs is when I realize it the most, because I wish I could use the stair function more, but it is a little bit too much of an exertion of energy as a bilateral. And sometimes it doesn't absolutely, like it's got to be lined up just right in order for it to come up and over. So a lot of times I still go around like this. So when I plant my foot, I see it a lot. Cause like, I mean, that's way more articulation than I've ever gotten ever. And I didn't realize it was going to be that much, but it's helped me to be able to feel more secure, as well as walking. If I'm like, you know, when you go from the curb to the driveway where it sloops down and back up, like it's helped in those situations more than I thought. It really would. Because I was using the vertical shock for a while just because that's what my process threw me on, because he thought that's what I needed. And there's nothing against him on that because it still did need it, but it wasn't as needed, I think, as the left and right articulation of the ankle.
I was going to ask you about Camp No Limits. Is there something, I think I heard about the families being a part of it. Can you talk a little bit more about, is there support for the parents and siblings?
Yeah. So, and that's what I talked about a lot with people, because a lot of camps are just about the camper, which I still think is important. But as I described earlier, the family unit is really going through the journey, especially as a young child. I didn't even know this was just what my life was going to be, you know? And my parents grew up with all their limbs, and they didn't know what the heck was going to happen because they thought I was going to come out and start running, and that did not happen. So, at this camp, we have parent support group, which is super important. And I think I enjoy being there the most because I get to reinstate to the parents that this might be grim times, but there's a very large light at the end of the tunnel. There's a lot of frustration and giving up as a kid. And I too went through that to where I just wanted to be done. You know, my prosthetics giving out on me. I just wanted to just sit in a wheelchair or just not go to school because I was done with people staring or asking questions. I think at one point or another in my life or others, you know, you hit that breaking point. Everyone hits a breaking point at one point in their life. But then that's where the community of camp and other things, I think, come in, because if you have that support in that breaking point, I think that breaking point doesn't become don't want to use the word downfall because I feel like that's aggressive, but to where you won't come back up from that, because I have seen people where they have just given up, and they might go to like Baka boot camp or something like that, and that light reignites in them. I think being around community brings that light back up, and it can go down, because for the longest time I was too. And then I went to camp and around more of my fears and understanding people who I can talk about when my socket's sweaty and I'm like, dude, I got to take this off, or I got a sore. It's just those little things that bring that light up and show you that, number one, you can help others, and you can also go ahead and reach out when you're just having a bad day for an understanding, or how did you approach this? I have families text me personally where a kiddo had an aroma on their limb. I might not have had an aroma, but I've had sore pains and stuff like that. And they ask, like, you know, how long do you think I should keep them off this prosthetic? And, you know, I try to answer it within my own field because I am no doctor. But I try to say, like, you know, you really want to make sure that heals, because if you don't heal, that's extra time off the prosthetic. Or we talk about, blisters. I mean, this sun's been hotter for me than usual, so I think I'm getting like heat rash on my leg underneath the liners. So it's just things, and being able to find, the parents to be able to educate them and share with them, because as a kid, you're just going to keep running, and you're not going to care. I mean, it's true. The amount of blades that I snapped and liners that I ripped, and probably liners I should have cleaned, you just keep going. So to be able to share this with the parents is really important. And then the siblings are really cool, because for me growing up, my brother really, and it's always hard for me to say, but my brother really was kind of in my shadow, and it wasn't intentional. It's because my parents already knew what they were going to do to raise my brother. And they felt like they needed to bring me to more of these events, you know, get me out there, make sure I'm not depressed, I'm not alone. And it really, in being older now and talking to my brother, he's 25, so he's older than me. You know, he tells me how much of an impact it has, and I have apologized to him, because I feel like even though it's not my fault, it's still responsibility to take initiative. But he explains to me, he's like, I enjoyed watching you do those things. He was like, as much as it might have sucked, he was like, as a big brother, I was proud of you. So that was really cool. And these siblings get to have that moment at camp, because we have a sibling club specifically for them, to where they are allowed to either, you know, if their sibling has a missing arm, we actually make them do activities where it's like, hey, try picking this up with one arm. Or we did paint with your feet. The siblings did painting with their feet. And I think that's really important because they also get to talk in the support group where it's like, you know, do you feel like your sibling is different, or do you feel like you feel this way? And it's being able to let them release that, I think is really important, because for my brother, he didn't have that. And I think there was a lot of pent up anger, and I don't think it was intentional, but I can definitely understand why there would be anger. I don't think there was resentment, but there was anger because he just wanted to be able to do things he wanted to do and not necessarily get like option B. So at camp, it allows these kids and parents to be able to be there with them, see their journey as well as the progress they make at camp with new things they do. But as well, be able to have the parents learn and grow and have the siblings feel like they're seen and heard, which is really unique about camp. And thank you guys for letting me.